towards creative systems in architectural design is the topic of today's talk. I'm Manuel Mühlbauer, founder of Future Immersion, and I want to introduce you first to the structure of the talk today. First, I want to talk about the relationship between user and design system. Next, I want to go into control versus automation in the human-in-the-loop process before I extend on the strategic design of creative systems. At the center of today's talk is the framework for creative systems in architectural design. Then I want to show some of the design explorations undertaken during this research before I wrap up with the research conclusions. The relationship between user and design system is central for the interactive approach. The computer usually provides informations and solutions to the designer, does a lot of calculations, while the designer adds preferences or choice back to the computer so that the computer knows which solutions to follow up on. Complete automation by generative design is infeasible because in architectural design there are many different design solutions that need to be negotiated. Complete automation is only feasible when there's one particular objective that wants to get followed through to one optimal solution. Subjective preferences and choices are usually not based on performance criteria. Therefore, the designer needs a mechanism to provide feedback on those different criteria that are kind of soft criteria. The aesthetic, social, and cultural criteria, for example, cannot be automated at the present, but they also need to be evaluated in an architectural design process. An aesthetic system allows the designer to navigate a design space intuitively and provide some control to kind of where the design system wants to navigate. This is better than having the full control because then there is a high effort by the designer that needs to evaluate all the solutions, or if there is a full automation, there's often a misalignment with the needs of the designer. Interactive mechanisms help the designer in guiding a design process. On another level, the strategic design of creative systems allow the reduction of complexity of the design system and an objective analysis of the design system. I started with the review of the technology, moved on to explore the potential value and novelty of the artificial intelligence system, and then come up with a design strategy. After the design strategy was in place, was the potential to use projects to explore what is possible inside this design strategy. The design method and the iterative application thereof allow to move from problem to prototype and then on to product. The reflection allowed to kind of feedback the experience made during the design process, and also to feed the project back to a process level and analyze, reduce, and adapt the knowledge generated by the project. Framework for creative systems in architectural design needs to look at different systems that work together to support a designer in guiding a search process. Criticism system supports the designer during stages of automation and needs to be fed by user preferences before, so that the system has a knowledge about what the designer wants to have aesthetically. This is done during the aesthetic guidance system. Here, the designer can use implicit knowledge to feed into the process, select certain designs, and allows the machine learning algorithm in the background to adapt to those choices. This allows the establishment of an aesthetic fitness function that feeds back into the optimizer of the creation system, where then quantitative measures were evaluated combined with the qualitative evaluation outcome. The design system then kind of generated new design solutions, and the process started anew. And this allowed a reduction of the design system complexity during the iterative review on the strategic design level. During the research, different designs were explored. There was a process from automated design to semi-automated design. The application of the typogenetic design framework, as you can see in the third image, allowed to create those angular shapes in an interactive approach, providing a mechanism to guide the process and also to iteratively adapt to the aesthetic preferences of the designer. The combination of different artificial intelligence techniques allowed the designer to explore a design space interactively. In another stage, the 2D style transfer based on deep learning method allowed to look at more complex design solutions that were generated. The conclusions of this research are as follows. The creative system was used to review a wide scope of topologically different design options. This was enabled by genetic programming. The designer gained insights on the design case from his or her subjective position, which is part of this learning process using the aesthetic system. The aesthetic system extended the idea of the evaluation system so that the designer was able to articulate aesthetic preferences during stages of evaluation and was supported by the system in stages of automation. Those specific mechanisms of aesthetic exploration allowed the designer to direct the search by bringing into place an initial design reference and then interactively choosing different designs during stages of artificial evaluation. Additional knowledge about control system and generative design was produced, and also on how to design those systems, and the framework of this research allowed to encapsulate very briefly the schemes that were developed during the research project. Thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions.